Welcome or welcome back to episode 4 of Lift You Up. So glad to see you here and to introduce you to today's guest. But before I do, I'm going to ask you for a little favor. Subscribe to my YouTube channel or give me a follow on Instagram at Tamika Bickham TV. I'd love to connect with you there. But today, talking to a man who doesn't have a usual story, but who does? NFL player. He had a career-ending injury his rookie year, went to medical school after some inspiring words from his mother before she passed. So he went back in his 30s and now has his own practice, is a holistic doctor specializing in medical marijuana and also working with other former NFL players. He's got a really interesting path, an interesting view on medicine, and I'm excited for you to hear a little bit more about him. Our physical, mental, and emotional health is not just a want, it is a need for happy lives and prosperous businesses. Lift You Up is the podcast where we share inspiring health stories from business owners who are fulfilling their purpose to live their healthiest lives and helping you do the same. From former TV reporter to marketing entrepreneur and content creator, I care about sharing stories that matter and stories that connect us. I'm your host, Tamika Bickham, your health and wellness matchmaker. Dr. Hervé Damas. Did I say it right?
Oh, oui, merci beaucoup.
Thank you
Yes,
so
you
much
did.
for being here with me today. If I run down the list here, your practice is Dr. Damas Wellness, which is holistic medicine, and you specialize in using cannabis or medical marijuana. You are a former NFL player, went to medical school later in your life in your 30s, and now you are a very busy man. But I'll start from the I guess you always were, but probably even busier than you thought you would be at one point years ago. I think we met.
Yeah,
I think it was probably close to a year ago now at the Dolphins Fins Weekend alumni fundraiser.
yeah. So, I played with the Buffalo Bills. I played 1 year, blew my knee out early on my rookie year. So it was kind of like a devastating
Wow.
part of my life because I started playing football in high school. I fell in love with it as soon as I started playing, like organized football. And I made up my mind. I think my sophomore year in high school was like, I'm going to NFL. So I remember saying, like, this is what I want to do. And I put a lot of time into it. I had a really good collegiate career. Really happy. I can tell you, I loved playing football. It was kind of like, it was my thing. You find this thing, you're like, this is it. I love this stuff. I love everything about it. So it kind of helped me define myself
Yeah.
as a young man. After, making it to the league, boom, there it is. My knee
Mm.
blows out. I didn't understand the severity of it at the time. So I tore, there are 4 ligaments in your knee that hold your knee together. I completely tore one of them. I had like a 90%
Mm.
tear on another and 50% tears
Oof.
on 2 of the other ones. And I tore some cartilage. I mean, it was completely just basically shredded. And remember the surgeon, the team doctor, this is funny. So I'm like, I got this knee injury and I'm like, I can't believe this is the first major injury in my life. And I remember going to the library in Buffalo and researching articles on knee surgery and reconstruction and bringing them back to the team surgeon and saying, hey, I did some research on reconstructive knee surgery. This is what I found. I would like you to do this to me. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you know what? You're a pretty bright dude. You might consider going to medicine. And I was like, medicine? You're gonna fix my knee and I'm gonna play football 10 more years. I'm gonna go Hall of Fame. I've got this all planned out. Everything's gonna be all right. I'm gonna go back and play football. And he patted me on my shoulder and like real patriarchal type and was like, sure you are. And I was upset. how dare you? You know, you don't know what I'm
Right.
capable of. You know, how dare you tell me? He was absolutely right. People don't recover from those kind of injuries. You do not recover. It's very rare that somebody recovers from an injury. You know, some people have, but it's rare. So it took me a couple years to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. You know, kind of loss of
Mm-hmm.
identity. Not a football player anymore. So I got into strength and conditioning, health and fitness because I was training all the time and I was always interested in what's the best way to take care of my body, prepare myself to excel in my sport. I'd spent so much of my time doing that. I had like amassed all this personal knowledge on
Right.
this stuff. And I was like, well, you know, what else am I going to do with myself? This is, I'm already doing this anyway. Might as well. When you train for sports and sports performance, it's different than when you train for
Right.
health and fitness because the demand, it's more rigorous. It's like, you know, it's similar, but it's
Right.
two different things. And so when we got into fitness, you're dealing with general population. You've got to start thinking about people who have, let's say, injuries or illnesses, which you know you have to modify programs for.
Right.
You know, you're dealing with geriatrics, you're dealing with pregnant women, you're dealing with all this stuff. And so I got into personal training, got a bunch of certifications and training. uh, I was like, you know, a fitness kind of like expert person at the time, which is funny. I was teaching like step aerobics and kickboxing.
I
You see
I
that?
would like to see one of your step aerobics photos.
And then I got a yoga certification. So I was doing all this stuff. And then I got a job offer from a school in New Jersey. It's called Trenton State College. It's now called the College of New Jersey, and they need a wellness director. And I went there. I went to New Jersey and became their wellness director. And I started teaching in the Department of Health and Exercise Science. So kinesiology, principles of exercise science, specific sports, and was doing all this stuff. And started lecturing for American College of Sports Medicine. And in 2002, we kind of had a world shifting event. My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer again,
Again.
and she passed away. Yeah, so 1995, my last year before I was leaving to go to the Bills when I was graduating, she was diagnosed the first time.
Hmm.
So as I was training to go to the league, I would train and then go take my mom to chemo or radiation therapy when I was a senior in college. So 7 years later, this cancer returns, and we kind of thought that she was being monitored and everything. She was going for her mammograms and her tests, and we thought everything was fine. One day I get a call from my brother and says she's in the hospital. She's been having problems breathing, and they thought she had a pneumonia. One of the residents there pulled me aside for whatever reason and said, "Hey, listen, your mom doesn't have pneumonia. Your mom has a history of breast cancer. I think this is metastatic breast cancer, and you should get your mom out of here to another hospital because she's not getting it." And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like,
Wow.
you know, I got a phone call about pneumonia. I come in the hospital here, my mother's barely breathing. And now you're telling me that there's like, and now you're pulling me to the side. You give me a side conference and you're telling me my mom is dying of cancer. Like, and I remember him saying, listen, the only reason I know this is because I saw this in medical school. I've seen this before. And I remember him saying, if you tell anybody I said this, I'll deny it. He's like, you need to get your mother out of here. But if you tell anybody I told you, I'll deny it. Because he was lower rung on the totem pole. Medicine is very hierarchical. So I was fortunate, had a good friend um, who's a cardiologist and in New York City. And I called him. I said, this is what they told me. And he said, we're going to get your mother into a better hospital. Transferred her over. Lo and behold, he was absolutely right. Her cancer had returned. And during that time, this is when like things started to like build up in me that I needed to do something more. Because you go to a hospital and all these doctors are talking to you and they're using terms and they're giving you choices. Like I have no idea what you're
I
talking
know. I think we can
about,
all
right?
relate
Like
to that,
what is that?
being there. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And you feel kind of, yeah, man, and you feel a little bit like incompetent or insecure, and you just said, this is my mother, and I wish I could do more. So that was when it first started building up in me, like, whoa, there's something I should like a little bit more. And then this is the interesting thing. About a year later, I'm visiting her, and she says to me, "Hey, why don't you come sit down? Come talk to me." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" She goes, "Yeah, I really like you coming by and visiting me all the time like this. She's like, you're a great son. You come by and you visit me. I really like it." And I was like, "Well, it's nothing. You're my mom. What am I like? Not gonna come visit you?" She goes, "But tell me about you. Are you happy?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Hey, are you happy?" I started giving her my accomplishments and my tangibles, So I was kind of like, I got a great job. I got a great title. I just bought an expensive new car, And she's like, "That's great, but are you happy?" And then I started like giving her like other things. Well, I look great and blah blah blah, and I'm writing this, and I was in an article, and she goes, "Yeah, that's great, but again, you haven't answered my question. Are you happy?" So I remember like doing one of those breaths, like, "Oh man, like who does this woman want?" Like, "Yeah, man, my mom is up to something." So I was like, "All right, Ma, what is it?" And she's like, "Well, listen, when you were playing football, when you were pursuing that, there was something about you. I can tell there was an energy, there was a fire. You had this thing about you. Because now," she was like, "This, I see you come and you visit me, and I think it's great, but it's not the same. Because you're missing something." I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" Like, I thought I was doing okay here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a professor, I got the center, like, making money. And then she says to me, "Well, aren't you into all this health stuff and body and taking care of yourself with your job right now? Why don't you become a doctor?" And
That was now the
again,
second time that
I
was said
gave her
to
the
you.
that was the second time, and I said, "A doctor? You want me to go back to school and do
Yeah,
all that work
exactly.
at this age?" So it was 32 at the time, 32 or 33. And she said to me, "Well, you never struck me as the kind of guy who's afraid of hard work." And I was like, "Oh, oh, and I see what you're doing." I remember like that, like hitting me
And did
hard
she
in the
still?
chest. And
She
I
had
was like,
breast cancer at this time.
she was still going through treatments, and she was still, unbeknownst to me, that she was going to die about 8 months after that, 6 to 8 months. So she was really looking back. She was giving me something. August 2004, she passed away. I packed my stuff up. I was in Miami. I got to Miami election day 2004. I was gone. I was like, I'm going to med school. So January 2005, I started classes again as a freshman at FIU down here. So started like bio
Oh
101 and
wow!
chemistry 101. Yeah, I think I was 33. I think it might have been 33 or
Wow!
34 at the time. Fast forward, wanted to go to medical school overseas. Went to Medical University of the Americas in Nevis, St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a beautiful little island,
Mm-hmm.
small little place. Yeah, so spent 2 years over there, and then came back to uh, the States. Went to Chicago to do my clinicals, and then went to New York. Did my internship in general surgery in the Bronx at Albert Einstein, Montefiore, which was an incredible experience. I got to do like that real crazy doctor stuff you see on the TV shows, pushing patients, like saving lives, like New York City trauma. It was an incredible experience, but it wore me out. That thing was no joke. It was for real, for real. When I got back to Miami, I started my radiology program, and something felt off. I was literally miserable going to work every day. I had to give myself pep talks. I had anxiety. Like, it was in a dark room and you sit in front of computers. You don't have a lot of patient contact. You're just speaking to a microphone, interpreting images. Started having the anxiety during my surgery internship, and which was odd because I'd always been a confident person. like real confident person. So I was like, this is really weird that I'm walking to a room full of people and my heart is beating fast. I have like no reason to feel so anxious, but I do. And I had also been suffering from headaches.
I think sometimes that's our body telling us that something's not right, that something's off,
Correct.
and that we need to make a change
Yes.
that's more in line with
Yeah.
what we should be doing. A
I'm,
lot of people shelve
yeah,
that feeling or push that feeling aside and just deal with it because they're doing what they think they should be doing instead of doing what is really right for them.
it's hard for us to prioritize ourselves over everything else. You know, I think even the current situation, for example, with the coronavirus, where we're really, which is odd to me, having this debate over whether we should send people back to work and risk their lives, right? Or should people stay home and protect themselves? You shouldn't be in a society where you have to make that kind of
Right.
choice, right? I mean, there's something fundamentally wrong with that to
Tell me
Florida.
about the
Um,
transition then to your own practice and what you're doing now
so, yeah,
with medical marijuana. And yeah, let's get into all that.
because I was having all these things going on, these headaches and anxiety, and I figured out the more exercise that I got, the better I was, like the better I felt. So I was running like 6 miles a day up and down hills, and I was lifting weights. And if I didn't do it, I was in bad shape. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't study. So it's like, I have to do this. I kept on doing it so much that I hurt myself, had
Mm.
surgery. And when I had the surgery, um, they prescribed me Oxycontin and Percocets for pain. And luckily for me, they made me feel so
Yeah.
sick I couldn't take them. I would rather have the pain from this surgery than the feeling from these
I know
Percocets
that
or
feeling.
this
I've been in that
Oxycontin. Like,
same position. It's awful.
right? Well, yeah, it's awful. And then, I still had the anxiety, so I was prescribed Xanax for that and insomnia. That made me groggy. So I was like, I can't take these benzodiazepines because I can't function when I'm on them. But if I don't take them, I can't sleep. So I start taking Benadryl, and I still had the headaches. So it was on this cocktail of Tylenol and Benadryl to go to sleep, sometimes in
Sounds like a
Xanax,
dangerous
right? I still had the pain.
combination.
Oh man! So it was like I was medicating myself and trying to find a way. And someone I was with was like, "Hey, dude, you should smoke some weed." And I was like, "Weed? How dare you? How dare you? If weed worked, I would know. I'm a big brain. I'm an expert. I'm a know-it-all, and I don't know anything about this. But this weed stuff does not work." About 6 months of this stuff, and I was like, "So, I think I'm ready to try some of this weed." Like, I think I went to a period where I didn't sleep for 4 days, and I
Oh
was
my
like in so much
gosh.
pain, and my head was exploding. I smoked the weed, and everything felt better. Um, Everything. I didn't believe it the first night. Smoked the second night, and I slept. I remember sleeping like 12 hours. Headaches were gone, anxiety, and I was like, no way. Like, impossible. There's no way this could be
Yeah.
a coincidence, right? And I remember like taking a night off and not doing it, and not sleeping well. And then the third night, I was like, I gotta try it again just to be sure. Went to sleep. Went to the hospital the next morning. I felt great. No anxiety. There was no pain. And I was like, there's something to this, and I got to find out what it is. So that set me down this pathway. I get to Mount Sinai, and they're like, you can't smoke weed anymore. So here I am in this job that I can't stand, and now I've got the anxiety, I've got the headaches, and again, my body's hurting me. I hadn't yet discovered CBD, right, as part of it. So I'm like, something is really wrong here. I don't think I belong here. So in 2017, they came out with the regulations, and I started my own practice.
In
And then
2017.
shortly thereafter, in 2017, and shortly thereafter, the hospital was like, cease and desist, homie. Like, you can't be an employee here and then having this medical marijuana thing going on, right? So I tried to slow play them. I tried a whole bunch of stuff, and then, they were like, you're gonna have to choose. Like, we're gonna support it. And so that was like that was a big decision I had to make in my life. So I gave up my residency spot in radiology. It's the best decision I ever, like, it's the best decision I've, I'm so happy with what
And
I'm
because
doing.
even aside from
I
being an
get so much.
entrepreneur, I mean, your body was telling you before that what you were doing wasn't
Yeah,
really
I was vibrating.
right. It wasn't really your purpose. It wasn't really fulfilling you to in the way that you wanted to be. So tell me, okay, since you've started your practice, it's holistic medicine. Tell me about exactly who you serve and what you do.
So I started my practice, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? Right? I've never run like my own business before outside of being a trainer. What am I gonna do? I said, well, how did this happen? How did I wind up in this situation? It was like I got beat up playing football. So basically, right? We know now the NFL has admitted that football, the concussions from it, contribute to these headaches, to these psychological things that were going
Right.
on, right? So it makes sense to me. It started making sense. Like, why is my head exploding all of a sudden? Like, why am I having mood disturbances and I can't sleep? So I said, there's got to be a bunch of other football players like me. So I went to our chapter meeting, our retired players chapter meeting in South Florida. That's how my practice really started, was with former players. My teammates, we call it a fraternity, but they really
And it
supported
was
me in
really
the
former
beginning.
players going
And I was
through these symptoms that you talked about, the headaches, mood
mood
swings.
swings, mood disturbances, rage, fits of rage, chronic pain, debilitating pain, opioids. Some of them had issues with opioid addiction in the past from painkiller, and so we're like, I'm still in pain, but I don't
Right.
want to do that, anymore. It took me forever to get off of it. They would invite me into their homes, and the spouses would say, I like, Jesus Christ, I hope you're the
Mm,
solution to what's going on, because he's not the same person
mm.
that he was. And, that's something that a lot of us don't consider, that there's, other people that have to live through this as this person
Wow.
deteriorates.
Yeah.
And, for the most part, knock on wood, I have had the answer. It's incredible, but, it has worked
And
well.
what
And
exactly
it's also,
do you feel like has worked?
so one of the things was having somebody go to them, go to somebody instead of asking them to go
Mm,
out and look for help. Having somebody who was like, "Hey, listen, I'll come to you." And for a lot of people, to have somebody who went through the same experience, who's now
right.
on the other side and who's showing compassion and concern, that was really important, because you get discarded and you
Right.
feel discarded, and then here's this person that comes in and it's like, listen, man, I'm here for you. Like, I'm here for you. Like, I literally drove
Right.
across the state for you. And so I think there was the genuineness of like, hey, well, I'm here because this is specifically important to me. And then the second thing was, a lot of people had these mood disturbances, high anxiety, introducing cannabis to them in a safe and legal way, where they're not buying junk from the street, which could come from wherever and have whatever mixed into it, but also get guidance. So having somebody that can say, for your particular circumstance, when you go to the dispensary, this is what you want to purchase. This is what's going to work for you. You're going to take this amount, like a regular medication. Really, that's what I was doing. Custom formulations for each person. And then we talked about healthy living. So as time goes on, we start kind of like expanding the focus of our interaction, which was like, first, we're going to like take care of the immediate things which are holding you back. And then now we're going to go expand. All right. Are you, exercising? Are you seeing a therapist? I referred a lot of guys to mental health, specialists. The NFL benefits program sometimes is really difficult to work through. So I was able to help them in terms of write letters on their behalf and steer them to the right direction. And as that happened, they started recommending friends and family to me. So I opened my first center, and then, kind of expanded things. And, I had an herbalist on staff, because that was something that people had been asking me for, and that wasn't really my forte. And I was able to meet a wonderful woman who this is her
Yeah.
thing, and other modalities of healing, sound healing, yoga, non-invasive things, things to make you feel better, meditations, all these things that traditionally you wouldn't find at a physician's office, but have some efficacy in terms of helping you get in a better state of
And
health and
exactly,
wealth.
right? Health is health as well.
I've decided to kind of kill the golden goose, this radiology position. Like I'm
I
all in
know
now. I better
this.
start
This seems like a
researching and learning.
total switch from like traditional medicine, radiology in a
Yeah,
hospital, and now you're talking about
yeah,
sound therapy, yoga,
yeah.
and
We,
weed at
we,
concierge service. Like, what just happened? Is this what Mama was talking about?
right? Yeah, right. So I was like, I've done it now. I've got myself into something mad,
But I
right?
bet your
I was
anxiety
like,
was
well,
gone. Were you having like the
listen,
most fun
it was
of
like
your life?
somebody put a battery in my back. Like I was like
Yeah.
off and running, you know. And because what's funny is, because I have this unique background of, having been in the NFL and then, becoming a doctor, which is, a rare combination. There are a few of us who have done that. So that's a curiosity
Right.
for a lot of people. And I started getting more, media as a result of that. So as that happened, it was like, hey, it was kind of like, hey, there's this dude, there's this guy. He used to play football. Was like a doctor. Was all into this weed stuff.
It
We'll
does.
check this
I'll
out,
be honest. It does make
right?
for a great story. But what I really like about it is that you can speak from personal experience and how it's benefited you, and having been there and gone through the things that your patients are going through. But then you can
Yeah,
also speak from the scientific side of things and having been trained, going through medical school. So you have both sides of it and at least two perspectives to work from.
I've developed good rapport with other physicians because they know that if you send me a patient, and I have pediatricians that send me patients, I have oncologists, I have interventionalists that send me patients because they know what I'm telling them is the best scientific advice that they can get.
Why do you think more people are looking for these holistic options when it comes to medicine outside of traditional medicine?
Some of it is financial, because health insurance costs a lot of money. Doctor's visits and procedures cost a lot of money. So people have started to kind of like take control of their own health as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible. I think the second thing is, I think the demographics in our society have changed a lot in terms of, you have people from a lot of other cultures and societies who have come into our American culture. And with that, you bring some of your own background in that. So I'm Haitian. I grew up kind of around that. My mother always was into herbs and kind of like these homeopathic,
Right.
remedies, and a lot of, South American, Latin American,
Yeah.
Caribbean people, African, they have that same thing. And then now you're coming to America and you're not completing letting that go. And then I think third is the availability of information with the internet. I mean, the combination of all those things has people kind of saying, wait a minute, you know, there is something to this. And, my place is in it is to say, yeah, there is, and here's the science
Right.
behind it.
For anybody listening, what is a health tip that you would have that somebody can implement today, tomorrow, right away? Maybe something that you live by.
It is recognizing when your body is speaking to you. For me, as a like former tough guy football player, was the mental aspect of things, right? I was going through this period in my when something I wasn't supposed to be doing what I was doing, and I kept fighting against it. As a result, I felt really, really
Yeah,
bad.
I've been there.
When you're going, I think
I've been there. Yeah.
you've been there, right? Well, I mean, you've done it. If it's not work, it could be
Yeah.
work, it could be relationships. Don't be afraid of change. Listen, if it doesn't feel right, then it's not right. I was telling a patient this. I like to speak in analogies to people. So I was telling her about her body, and I said, just imagine if your body was a car, it's your vehicle. It takes you around.
Absolutely.
It takes you to where you want to go. It allows you to do what you need to do, right? And I said, you got to take care of it.
And I think we're all seeing this right now with coronavirus going on, is if we don't have our health, we don't have anything.
I find it morally reprehensible that, you know, we have to make these kind of decisions of like, hey man, just die or go to work. With all the wealth that we have in this place, people shouldn't be living the way that they should. Not to be a bleeding heart, but I mean, come on, there's so much excess in this place, right? It's not right. But we can't control that part. But what we can do is control certain things around us, how we spend our time.
Any last things that you would like
I
to add
lastly,
that you feel you want people to know?
the current situation, we can tie everything to the current situation. There's a lot of disinformation out there, a lot of bad information. Make sure that you're getting information from sources that are reputable
Yeah.
and trustworthy. You know, can be easily steered off course. So find really good sources that always have scientific references. I would say also take care of your mental
Yeah.
health right now. You know, we're isolated. Um, you know, things have changed. We're not working. We have a lot of stressors. Um, you know, let's try to find good ways to cope. And that includes prayer, if you're spiritual, meditation, includes communication. Sunlight is really, really, really important. This is the only time that you've probably had in a long time to be by yourself. You know, take advantage of it and be good to yourself.
I love that. Perfect note to end this on. Thank you so much, Doctor, for sharing all that you did today. So if people want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
About the center, you can go to drdamas.com, drdamas.com. On social media, you can follow me. I'm most active on Twitter. It's at Damas Hervé, DAMASHERVE. All right. So you can follow me on Twitter. And if you ever need to call our office, it's real easy. It's 833-362-3262. We are still seeing patients. We are doing things via telemedicine. We're able to recertify patients via telemedicine.
And I'll make sure to put all of that information in the show notes so people know how to find you and reach out to you there. So thank you so much. And please stay healthy, stay safe to you, your loved ones, your colleagues, and everyone in between. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Definitely, you know, fun interview, different perspectives. I think something we didn't get to in that interview that I thought was interesting, because a lot of businesses are having to change and pivot and change how they do business right now during this pandemic. And he also mentioned, since he does medical marijuana certifications, that all had to be done in person. Well, obviously, we are trying to social distance, limit the amount that we are in person with other people. So actually, during this time, it is now approved, or he is now approved to do medical marijuana recertifications, which have to be done every 7 months virtually. So that is a win for him and his business. Obviously, a lot of telehealth and telemedicine needing to adapt to those type of changes. But really, there's no reason why we can't do so many of these things virtually. So be sure to connect with him. Again, his contact information is going to be below in the show notes. And thank you again for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. Please go ahead and leave me a review wherever it is you listen to podcasts. Also, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or give me a follow on Instagram at Tamika Bickham TV. I always look forward to hearing from you. Until next time.